Hiya guys, welcome to another episode of The Family Table. And today I am back with you guys with this little special treat because I'll be making Guyanese style pine tart. This is one of our most popular pastries in which we have, which a lot of people will have in Guyana. So I hope you guys enjoy the recipe and come with your boy into the kitchen and let's get started. So for the filling for the pine tarts, we are going to need some crushed pineapples. I have about 1.5 kg because I'm making quite a bit, but obviously you guys can use a bit less. So what you can do is you can buy the tins of crushed pineapples, or if you have pineapple slices or fresh pineapple, just put them in a food processor or blender. I have fresh pineapples in which I've just put into a food processor. So in which we tried to get that really fine. So if you can see, it's a bit like baby food. Well, not really baby food, but it's a bit mushed or crushed. And also what you are going to need is some sugar. I am using brown sugar, so I have about 1.5 cups of Demerara Gold, because obviously making Guyanese style pine tart, we want to get all of those flavors inside of it. Those two are the main ingredients in which you would need, and a bit of salt. I have here 1 teaspoon of salt because the salt is going to help to enhance the flavor of that pineapple and it brings out the flavor and stuff. And I have 2 teaspoons of vanilla, which is optional, vanilla essence. I have the clear one in which I am using, and I am also using a 1.5 tablespoons of lime juice. You can use lime or lemon juice. This is to help to prevent the sugar from crystallizing and obviously add a bit more flavor to that pineapple. So because some pineapples may be more naturally sweet, this might just add a bit of a tang to it, and we are using a lot of sugar in it. And these are just from my own personal taste. I am using 1 teaspoon of freshly ground ginger, grate pureed, whichever you want to call it. And I have a bit of a spice mix in which I am using. So in this I have 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of, okay, I don't know why I went blank, but yes, of mace. Yes, that's what I'm using. 1/4 teaspoon of mace in this, and it's just my own blend of spices in which I am using to add. Then again, that is optional. So now I have a pot on the stove. So what we are going to do is to add all the ingredients. So we want to have this on a medium heat so it doesn't burn, because we're creating like a preserve. So I'm just pouring all that beautiful fresh pineapple in there. And to this, all I'm just going to do is add the brown sugar, the salt, that fresh ginger, my little spice mix, a bit of lemon juice, and the vanilla. You can add that closer to the end, but I just like to get everything in there. And I'm just gonna give this a good mix just to evenly incorporate it, and just allow the heat to cook this down to get rid of that moisture. So it'll be like we're making a preserve, a kind of jam, because that's basically what we need. So it's just gonna cook down, the color is gonna change, and I'll update and show you along the way. Okay, so it's just only been cooking for a few minutes. So as you can see, it's starting to change color and become a lot darker. That is what you want. So anytime you see this, don't be alarmed. But obviously you can see this still has a lot of liquid in it, and all of this is the natural juice from the pineapple. So we're just going to cover this and allow it to cook down more until most of that water is gone. Okay, so the jam for the pine tarts is practically finished. As you can see, it's a lot darker, richer in color. Mine does not have a lot of sugar, which is what I wanted. I can have more of the pineapple taste because I don't like when stuff is too sweet. I still want to taste that pineapple in there. So what I'm going to do now is to just turn the stove off, and we need to allow this to cool. Just allow it to completely cool down before we start filling those pine tarts. Okay, so for our pastry dough, I'm making quite a large bit, but so you guys can obviously cut down. I'm using 1.5 kg of flour. I have 250 grams of shortening or shortening vegetable fat. I have about 300 grams of butter and some ice water. There's ice in it, keeping it cold. Some people might want to add a bit of salt. I do not add any salt to mine because I use a butter that contains a bit of salt, and it works just perfectly for me. Some may choose to omit. Some people might want to add an egg to this, but for help with the binding, but I do not add any egg to mine because I like to also keep it vegan friendly. So if you're a vegetarian or you're vegan and you do not want to consume any kind of dairy or animal products, obviously you can use a vegetable shortening and a butter made from vegetable oils. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna need. So what I'm gonna have to do is to cut this down into smaller pieces, the shortening and the butter, because they are cold. They do need to be cold and refrigerated. And then I'm just gonna add them to a bowl. I'm gonna switch to a bigger bowl so you guys can have a better look. Okay, so I've just roughly added the shortening, well, just roughly break them up, the shortening and the butter to the flour, and I basically have a pastry blender, or you can use your hands and rub it together until they resemble fine breadcrumbs, or I'm just going to use this and work it into the flour, and then I'll show you what it needs to look like. So if you don't have one of these, just use your hands and rub the fat into the flour until you see start to get that breadcrumb like texture, or you can use your food processor. I just prefer to make this by hand. Okay, so I've already rubbed the fat into the flour, and if you can see, it kind of looks like fine breadcrumbs at this moment. If you can smell, it's very rich. So what I try to do is I put about half or just under half of the weight of the flour in fats, basically, because I like a very rich dough. And then at this point, what we're gonna do is just add our water, some cold water, because I'm mixing. And what I try to do is you add a little at a time, because of this kind of dough, and because of it's cold, you just add and just squeeze, and you see that dough is already coming together. Because you don't want to add too much water to it. We're not making bread, so you can see just with that little bit of water how it's all coming together. But please bear in mind, I did mix a lot, so I'm just gonna add a bit more, and I'm just gonna continue to work and I'll squeeze together to bring that dough together. So now, as you can see, it's like we already have a nice pastry dough that's forming. So I'm just gonna continue to add the water and show you the end results. And just remember, please bear in mind the brand of flour also that you may use, the water contents in which you use might be different. So you just want to add a little at a time, and then you just continue to mix. So just a little bit of water, because a little goes a long way, because you don't really want to add too much and then need to add flour to this, because we want that nice rich pastry dough. If you see, it's all just coming together lovely. Okay, so I've just done it to the point where it's all combined. I try not to over mix it because I don't want to get the dough too warm. I know it might not look that great at this time, but I personally try not to put too much water in mine because I like my pastry to be nice and flaky. So what I'm going to do now is wrap this in some cling film and put it in the fridge to sit about half an hour, and while I get everything else ready for the pine tarts. Okay, so I've divided my dough into 4 pieces, just so I can work with the space in which I have. So what I'm just gonna do now is roll this out, and then I'll take you through the next step. So just divide up, lightly dust the surface in which area we're going to roll and pin, and we're just gonna roll the dough out. Okay, now so I've rolled out the pastry dough. So I've rolled out about an inch thick or half of an inch thick. Just roll it out based on your own preference. Just try not to do it too thin. And what you are going to need is something round to cut this out. I'm using this glass bowl because I want to get some very large ones, and this is the largest thing I can find. So just gonna make a circle in this and just do a bit of twisting. It's not the best, but it's what I have to work with now, and then I'm just gonna cut these out. Okay, so now I have my cut out. Just give it a nice roll just so I can even out the edges. And now I am going to stuff this. Okay, so I have the pineapple jam or preserving which we made earlier, that filling, the pineapple filling. So what I'm going to do is just take a nice scoop of that, put it in the middle, and just work it all the way outwards. You can try not to add too much of this. A little goes a long way, but if you like yours like super stuff, you can add more. But for me, a little goes a long way, even though it looks a bit more. But so yeah, so just want to spread that out nice and evenly, leave a bit from the edge, and then what we're going to do is make a triangle. So I'm going to fold that in, and then you bring the other side to lap over just while pressing down. Then we get the bottom and we bring that up, and here we go. You have your triangle. So you can leave it like this, or you can get a fork, and some people like to just press that in. We are going to put like an egg wash, which I'll explain more about, and other alternatives that you can use. So we just seal this, and there you go. Okay, so I've finished making off a few of the pine tarts. So what I've done now is basically I've made an egg wash, which is I've had 2 large eggs and some milk that I've just whisked together, and then just brush it on the top. Now, if you are making this and you want it to completely be vegan friendly, what you can do is, instead of using an egg wash, you can get some sugar and water, and just make a sweet solution with the sugar and the water. It'll help with the browning process from that, because of the sugar, and it'll caramelize. But it won't be like a caramel effect, but it'll just help it to brown. And that can be used if you want this to completely stay vegan and vegetarian friendly. So now I'm just gonna pop these in the oven, and when these get out, I'll show you guys. So I have my oven at 180 degrees. That's my normal baking temperature. Just keep an eye out on them, and I'll show you when they're done. Okay guys, so this is the finished product. Just have a look at that beauty. And I did try some off camera and they turned out beautiful. Got all that natural pineapple flavor coming out. And just if you're wondering if you can make it from the jams which are in the bottles, I would recommend you avoid those because the high sugar content, and sometimes most of them are made with the juices, and when you put it into the oven it boils out and it explodes and expands and it runs. But when you make it from fresh, it's a lot easier to manage. So I do hope you guys enjoy this recipe and I do hope you guys try it. So just make sure before you go that you are subscribed to the channel because I will be bringing you a lot more content. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and you turn on that notification button. And get down in the comment section, let me know what you think and what recipe you'd like to see me make next. And enjoy. Bye.